Here's how you do handshakes. Here's how you communicate with people. So my dad, to this day, is a teacher. In the core of my dad, he loves to teach. And I've had countless drives where I remember as a boy, and he would just pick a theme for the day. And he would just ramble. Like my dad would just ramble. And I remember looking over him, and he would be in the side of the car, and I'm just looking at him, just listening, because I was very much an observer growing up, and I'm still kind of that way. I'm not that much of a talker. I don't need to get very many words in, but I do like to observe. And my dad took advantage of that. And he was like, I got my son one-on-one right now. I'm going to teach him everything that I believe he needs to know. And what I came to realize, talking with a lot of my friends at the time, is not very many dads did that.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, well, all dads do this, right? It was like, if my dad does it, I'm sure all these dads are doing it. Well, then I would come to find out, like, oh, like you don't discuss that with like your dad, and it was very rare that even parents would even have conversations with their kids.
And welcome back to another episode of the Married with Mugicas podcast. We are so excited that you're here. We are Richard and Hailey Mugica. We have been married for 12 years. We have 4 kids. We homeschool. We run a home-based business. We're very beginner homesteaders, all of the other fun home things. And we started this podcast right about a year ago. Because we are super passionate about marriage and just want to see marriages thrive and want to see people enjoy their marriages. Our slogan here on this show is building a marriage you love coming home to.
Yeah.
Big the stop.
I don't know. I think we should leave it up to the audience. What do you think? That avatar?
Somebody in the comments, please tell Richard to take stupid glasses off, and then he'll do it. Anyways, how are you?
I'm doing good today. Good? Doing very good. So, got a couple battle scars. So recently we got the kids. Well, when I say kids, the boys. Airsoft guns, because they think they're airsoft warriors now. Yes. And so now we play in the front yard, backyard, and those things freaking hurt. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like nervous every time we play. I'm like, hey guys, like, why don't you just let's go a little bit further? Go a little bit further. So, anyways, we got some battle scars, but overall, I'm doing good.
Yeah, we took the boys to the airsoft gun place the other day to go get guns and stuff. Yeah. And I was just cracking up listening. So between the boys and then you and the guy who owns the store, it's like you guys are little boys playing war. And it's so funny. You guys heard about I reload the mag like this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are
don't get the drum mag, because you get the drum mag, the guy comes around the corner, you're not going to be quick enough. So
it's so silly.
Yeah, so it's a boy thing.
My boys the other day, my son yesterday, he actually let me shoot him with it. I think just because he wanted to show me that he could take it. So I shot him and he's like, I'll shoot you. I'm like, nope.
No.
Nope.
That's not how it works. It's a one-way. It's a one-way thing.
This is
not a double, for sure. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Holy Week, which is always, it's like my favorite week of the year because obviously as a Christian, it's a really special week, but it's like, and this sounds silly, but it hasn't been commercialized yet. So it's not like there's these big expectations on me every day. It's just an opportunity to disciple our kids and have these conversations. And if you're not familiar, there's a animated Bible series called Superbook that is so Superbook
good. Is awesome.
It's really, really good. And you can get most of the episodes on YouTube. But so we've been watching the Holy Week and following the footsteps of Jesus from Palm Sunday through Good Friday on Superbook.
Yeah, it's like a biblical cartoon.
It's just like an animated Bible,
but very scripture based. It's not fluffy. It's actual good meat potatoes of the Bible.
It's really good. So today is obviously the Last Supper, Passover dinner, and so we're going to do communion with the kids, and we're going to do a little feet washing ceremony with the kids. And then tomorrow's Good Friday, which what do they say? Friday is good because Sunday's coming. It's this is just my favorite time of the year. So
that's a good one.
Can't beat it.
Good stuff. I wore sandals today just to get my feet extra dirty.
You're actually wearing boots. That's okay.
Don't tell me.
So last week on the podcast, we actually dove deeper into our story and kind of
Yeah.
From the time we met to now, kind of what that looked like for us, because we've got a lot of new listeners, a lot of new viewers. And
The whole shebang.
Yes. So that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks. And then today's podcast is actually one that has been on our list for a long time that we're just finally getting to. And it's kind of a two-parter. So leaving a legacy with your marriage for your children and how that's going to impact generations to come and how your children are watching how you are married right now and learning for their future, but also acknowledging the legacy that we have come from, right? What did we see growing up? What was maybe normal, but not healthy and not biblical? And what was normal that we want to take with us? But also just making those conscious decisions of what we're going to take and what we're going to use in discernment and choose to leave.
That's right.
And I think it should be a really good episode.
It should be a fantastic episode. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Because these, they call them generational curses, and it all stems from, well, if you look at it, it's like, well, what happened before this, like before your marriage? And then what did you take from the last marriage? And then what did your parents take from their last marriage? Yeah. And they just keep bringing it over. And until you recognize it, spot it, where it's like, oh man, I didn't even realize I was repeating behaviors that were so subconsciously wired in me. Mm-hmm. Then, once you actually identify them, you can cut them off and choose a new pattern. So I think it's man, I love it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's really interesting because I think it's something we're really quick to do in our own marriages, right? We look at this issue that our spouse has or this conflict that we have, and we're like, oh, well, he got that from his dad, or he's just like this, or his parents did that, right? We can see that. But we don't often look at our own children or our own marriages and think, okay, one day when they're married, what are they going to look back and say, oh, yeah, I got that from my mom? And are we going to be proud of that? Or are we going to be like, oh, man?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Something that we did early on, I don't know if you even realize this, but something that we did early on in the marriage is we actually discussed the things in our parent, like, hey, here's some things that my parents did that we want to bring to the marriage. Here's some things they did that we want to ex-nay from the marriage. And then you kind of did it on your side. I don't know if you remember talking about this stuff.
I do remember that. I think that, yes, but I also think there's so many things that you may not even realize aren't normal until later. You know what I mean? Because you grew up and they were so normal. Like, this is a stupid example, but I remember growing up, we always called my grandfather was Papa in my family.
Yeah.
And so I remember being in high school and saying something to one of my friends about Papa. And they were like, who the heck is Papa? And I'm like, well, what do you call your grandpa?
I never did any of that stuff. I was always grandpa.
Yeah.
Everything was grandpa.
And so that was one of the first realizations I had of that's not normal. I guess that's not what everyone calls their grandpa.
Yeah.
But I think we can do that a lot in our families is we just grew up a certain way and assume everyone does this. And then we realize, wait, you didn't do that? Perfect example for us. My dad paid the bills. Your mom paid the bill. So then we got married and it was like, well, you're going to do that. What do you mean I'm going to pay the bills? Women don't do that. And you were kind of like, well, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So that was something we had to discuss.
That was a 180 for me. I totally thought you were going to just do the bills because I was like, well, I mean, my mom did it. And it makes sense because she was way more organized than my dad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, Hailey's more organized. But yeah, so it's these things.
But right? Some of those things you don't know until you're faced with them that you even did it different.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what's really important is that we're very big proponents of the concept of extreme ownership. Right?
Extreme.
And so this practice is it's to acknowledge and own your own stuff and then decide what to do moving forward. This is not, this is just what my parents did and now I'm screwed up. It's well, no, now you have to make decisions moving forward, but it is important to acknowledge which came from.
100%.
So
I agree.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with the legacy that you came from and kind of working through all of that kind of stuff. And then at the last episode, we're going to talk about the legacy you're leaving for your children. So we'll break it up into two parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So what are some things so here's the framework that we're going to use for this.
Okay, give us the framework because you all know
Richard's a big fan.
We gotta get the frameworks. If you don't get the frameworks down, nothing else matters.
Okay.
So heavy with it.
So the first one is you have to acknowledge your legacy. So there's three parts. You have to own it, discern it, and then decide or name it, own it, discern it. So what is the thing? So for example, it was paying the bills, right? This is the thing we do differently.
Yeah.
Own it.
Yeah.
Okay, your dad did it. My mom did it. Now, what are we going to discern and use and take into our own marriage?
Yeah.
So that's one example. But what are some other things that we have had to do?
So I'll give you a practical example. So something that when we dug into, at least how I was raised, something that was very beneficial for me early on, just throughout my entire childhood, is the conversations that I had with my parents. They were very much like, I'd be driving with my dad, right? And a lot of times he would either be taking me to school, I'd be going to golf practice or sports practice, whatever. I know I played golf.
Actually, very good at golf.
Yeah. Oh, I was good at golf. One blue moon time, before kids, before bills, before all that.
Before bills.
But what my dad used to do is he used to talk to me in the car, and he used to tell me about certain subjects like, hey, son, this is how you treat women. This is how you become a godly man. This is how you utilize, your talents and gifts in life. This is how you speak to people. Here's how you do handshakes. Here's how you communicate with people. So my dad, to this day, is a teacher. And the core of my dad, he loves to teach. And I've had countless drives where I remember as a boy, and he would just pick a theme for the day. And he would just ramble. Like my dad would just ramble. And I remember looking over him, and he would be in the side of the car, and I'm just looking at him, just listening, because I was very much an observer growing up. And I'm still kind of that way. I'm not that much of a talker. I don't need to get very many words in, but I do like to observe. And my dad took advantage of that. And he was like, I got my son one-on-one right now. I'm going to teach him everything that I believe he needs to know. And what I came to realize, talking with a lot of my friends at the time, is not very many dads did that.
Yeah.
So I thought, all dads do this, right? It was like, if my dad does it, I'm sure all these dads are doing it. Well, then I would come to find out you don't discuss that with your dad. And it was very rare that even parents would even have conversations with their kids. And so I remember when we got married, we kind of I talked about that with you. And I said, we really adopted that framework in our marriage, or in our parenting style, is like, let's just have the conversations with the kids. Like, let's be conversational. Let's go a little bit deeper than just surface level stuff, right? Where it's like, hey, how's your day? How's the weather? Oh, cool. High five, laugh. Those are fun. But it's like, how can we get a little bit more intentional with those moments? And that was something that my parents gave to me that I wanted to then pass on to our kids. And so even now when I'm in the car, I'm not as good as my dad, because my dad's so natural at it. But when I'm in the car with Riker by himself, I'll try to start these conversations. It's kind of awkward for me because I'm like, okay, he probably doesn't really care. I don't know if he's even listening, but I try to integrate this.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's all because it started early.
Yeah. Yeah. What about from your parents' marriage? Are there things from your marriage that you either observed and have decided okay, I want to take that into my marriage, or okay, I'm probably going to leave that behind? But
yeah, well, I would say from the marriage.
Or maybe give me an example of each. One that you looked at your parents and were like, I'm going to take that with me, and one that you were like, I'm going to leave that. Give me one of each.
Okay, so, well, the one thing that I wholeheartedly adopted from my parents' marriage is their roles and responsibility. They were very traditional, in the sense that my dad was the provider, the protector. He was the guy responsible for bringing in the money and making sure that the family was protected and cared for, right? In that sense. And so that was a very, something that I liked, right? My mom, on the other hand, was very much the nurturer. She stayed at home. She took care of the kids. She was the person that was making our house into a home. And she was really, really good at it. My mom was phenomenal at this stuff. And so I got to see how a traditional marriage was carried out between my mom and my dad. And we both came from that scenario, but that was something from the marriage that we tried to bring in to our marriage, that I respected from my parents, for sure. In terms of the opposite, what is something that maybe I wouldn't want to necessarily adopt? I would say, yeah.
So we've been married a long time.
Yeah.
So you probably made this decision a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's just something that you observed that you were like, okay, I'm going to acknowledge that, and I'm going to just decide not to carry that on.
Yeah. So what would it be? There's probably a lot of things. Maybe some of the ways they communicated, in terms of, like arguments, or maybe challenges that they faced, kind of, and how they went about discussing those challenges, and having those conversations when things got kind of like a little bit heated and stuff. So I was privy to that. So I would say those were lessons to me of things that I don't want to repeat, or I don't want to bring into my marriage. And so I was very conscious about that, going into our marriage. And, the benefit to that, and I love this quote by Benjamin Franklin. He says, you can learn something from everybody, but he's like, a lot of the times you just learn what not to do. And that's just as valuable as learning what to do. And so in that category, I would say that was one of my big learning lessons of like, hey, some of these communication patterns, I do not want to bring in to our marriage.
Okay. So how did you do that though? Because a lot of times when you grow up and you see something,
yeah,
most people, it's like 90% of the time, even if it's something that you hated, when push comes to shove and you're in the heat of the moment, you go on and repeat it anyway, because it's just what you saw and what was normal. So how did you do that?
So, here's you might call it genetic. You might call it just like luck of the draw. The one superpower that I maybe had my entire life is, and again, I'm patting myself on the back too much, but I feel like I'm a very self-aware person. So because I was such an observer, and again, that's just my personality. I've always observed. I'm not much of like, I don't want to be out in like the public and be the shine and all eyes on me. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather kind of be behind the scenes observing what's going on and then taking my lessons from that. And I think because I was such an observer in life, that I would also do that to like circumstances. I would observe the circumstance. I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. They just had a fight. Oh, that's interesting. They just like did X. And then I would observe it, and then I would internalize it. And then I would say, like, then I would pick my battle. I'd be like, okay, is that something that I want to do or not do? And even to this day, as you know, I am in a lot of ways different than a lot of my family. Like in terms of the way I think, in terms of the way, in terms of the actions that I took. And I think the reason why is because of this self-awareness to say, oh, here's the dynamic of what's going on. Here's the things I want to take. Here's the things I want to disregard. And here's the things that I want to make new. And why do I do that? I don't know.
Okay. So like say you have somebody who's maybe doesn't have this superpower of self-awareness like you have.
Yeah.
But they do have this thing in their past that they're like, okay, I don't want to continue this. My parents had this pattern when arguing and I don't want to continue that. How would you help somebody not continue a pattern if they don't have that kind of self-awareness? Like how would you help them?
Well, yeah, self-awareness is like bringing it to their attention. So I would ask them questions. Questions is, you can oftentimes figure out how intelligent somebody is by the questions that they ask. And experts don't give the best information. What experts do is they ask the best questions. And so questions is how I would do it, right? I'd be like, hey, what are the things that your parents did growing up that you don't want to repeat, right? And it's just by asking the question, what happens? It's like top of mind. It's like, oh, well, I do remember when they did X. I do remember when they did Y. And then the question becomes, well, is that something that you want to repeat or is that something that you want to change going forward? And then it's like, oh, well, I definitely don't want to bring that into the marriage, right? And so I think that's how we would identify it. And then going forward, the question that I've always asked myself, especially in our marriage when we're treating kids, is, does this behavior serve me or not serve me? And what I've realized in life, the more comfort that I get is choosing things that tend to serve me and our goals and our relationships versus the things that don't serve me. And so I really like that frame. Another frame that I come to adopt is the long-term like rocking chair frame. And I adopted this from a mentor, but I love it because I'm always trying to project out, like when I'm 75 years old and I'm on the rocking chair and all I have at that point is my memories. Is this something that I want to bring to that moment in my life? Am I going to regret this? Or am I going to say, dude, you did the right thing. You know what I mean? Like you did the good stuff. So that frame is something that's constantly on my mind, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but look, that's my perspective. What about yourself? Like, how would you, what are, if I were to flip the conversation around, what is something that you brought from your parents that was good? And what was something that you changed?
Yeah. So I think I brought a lot from my parents, but I think one of the big ones was like the sacredness of marriage. Like,
yeah,
divorce is not a word that you throw out ever
yeah.
in an argument, in any scenario. Like, it's not an option. It's not something you say. It's not a threat that you make. You're in it for the long haul. And my parents were, and they demonstrated that. I also saw my parents work through some really hard things, and not just like work through it, but like really truly come out on the other side in a better place with a better marriage. And that was such a beautiful example to me of like, I've seen other couples that like have the same argument for 50 years and they're still having this argument. And it's like,
yeah, for sure.
They're not growing. Their marriage isn't improving. They're having the same argument. And my parents really didn't do that. They would have the argument. They really did the work to overcome it. And then they moved on.
Yeah.
And that was really beautiful. Also the traditional gender roles my parents did a really, really good job of prioritizing each other over the children, which as a child growing up that way was such a gift because I knew my parents loved each other. There wasn't this pressure when I was leaving the house of, oh my gosh, your mom and dad going to be okay? Like, I knew they were going to be okay. They were really, as much as they were sad that I was leaving, they were really excited to have their time together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And so that was such a gift because I think that's too much of a weight for kids to carry. When you have your child getting married, and they should feel excited about leaving your home, but they also feel like they're burdening you by leaving. You know what I mean? Like, a kid shouldn't feel like that. And so those are things I definitely took. And there's some things that I kind of decided, okay, I'm not going to take that one. Well, we were not super wordy people growing up. Like
yeah. I mean, I would say you're not, to this day, you're very,
I'm not a super wordy person.
You're not a wordy, emotional.
I'm not an emotional. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you're a woman, you have emotions, but I'm just saying you're not. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was something I was kind of like, okay, I do want to have more conversations with my children. I do want to have more easy conversation as far as like being more comfortable talking about hard things.
Yeah.
I don't mean easy as far as like not talking about hard stuff, but not being so uncomfortable talking about hard stuff.
Yeah.
Because I would have felt uncomfortable talking to my parents about the really hard stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
And I don't want my parents to feel, or my kids to feel like that. I can't really think. Yeah, I think that's some of the big ones.
Having a deeper conversation.
Having deeper conversations. Yeah. Being more comfortable with the deeper conversations.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you brought that into marriage?
I do.
Yeah.
Didn't you think so?
Oh, I do. Yeah, 100% I do. Yeah. I just want, do you feel like that?
I do, because, and like that, this is one of the things. So like, obviously you and I, we sit here every week and we have these conversations, right? Like that. But, and I think my parents had deep conversations with each other. It was just maybe not as much with us as kids. And so I really wanted to bring that more to our family. I don't know. But that's one of the gifts that homeschool has given me, is that like, I am my kid's Bible teacher. I can't pass that off to somebody else. And so if I want them to know their Bible and I want them to know the Lord and I want them to know how to pray, I've got to teach that. So we've got to have these conversations. And so that's actually been really, 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 really fun for me.
That was one of the blessings for me too. I don't know if you know this, but when we were dating, I knew that your parents had a notion of like, we come first, right? Like the marriage comes first, the bond comes first. It was very evident in their actions. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that you adopted that and you were going to bring that to our marriage. And that gave me a level of comfort. And I don't know if you know this, but I just knew going into marriage that you were going to prioritize the marriage and that you were going to make sure that we were good before we went on to like, kids and all this stuff. But I knew that you valued marriage so much that it was never going to get to a place where it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to pour into the kids and I'm going to my spouse will be the underneath.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, and like my parents weren't super big on conversation, like we just talked about, but they definitely led by example. And so I saw that my whole life. And they would actually say, like to this day, if our kids ask me, who do you love more, me or dad? I'll tell them dad.
Yeah.
And like a lot of parents wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But I think that actually gives my kids a lot of comfort to know that, like, I love my kids more than I could say, but my love I have for their dad is different. And that's like, you know.
Well, the line that I love, it's like a lot of people are trying to be better parents when really you should focus on trying to be a better spouse. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of deep.
It is. I think that's the best gift you can give to your children is a healthy, happy marriage. Mm-hmm. I think that's the most important, most profound thing that you can give them. And things that we're going to talk about later, but the things that they're going to take into their future marriage, right? Okay, I'm going to go there right now.
Just go there, girl.
But
you got this.
I always have this thing in my mind of like, okay, my kids are only in my home for, let's say, 25 years, right?
Yeah.
If I make them the pinnacle of my existence for 25 years, and then they go into a marriage, and then they have kids, and now their wife makes their children the pinnacle of existence, now my child, who was in my home for 25 years, is now in this marriage for 50 years, not being prioritized. You know what I mean? So I would rather them be a child in my home who is loved and valued, but in the correct order so that they grow up and they expect to be prioritized in their home for the rest of their life.
That's right.
You know, does that make sense? That's like what I'm always...
Yeah, it's kind of the rocking chair philosophy. Like you're thinking way out. And you're like reverse engineering it.
Yes. And I also want to show my girls how to do that. How do you love and adore and care for your children? I was never neglected as a child, and I promise you my children are never neglected, but they know what it looks like to, like, perfect example, today for breakfast. What did you want for breakfast this morning?
Oh, man, you're going to go there, huh?
Well, what did you want?
I wanted those pancakes, man.
You wanted pancakes. Our children didn't want pancakes. Barbara asked for French toast. And I have listen, you do you as a mom, but I'm not a short order cook. I'm not making 3 different breakfasts. So what did mom make for breakfast? I made pancakes because that's what your dad asked for. So that's what we're getting.
Oh, man,
so
that's good stuff.
But that's just like one silly way where you can put that into practice in just like a real, like, okay, my kids know, like, okay, well, that's what dad said. Or another example that we've talked about a lot, like I do not allow my children to disrespect my husband. Like, not only
and vice versa.
No, and that's one thing you come down on really hard. You do not allow them to disrespect me, and I think that that's really important for kids to know. And I'll tell them, like, hey, you don't talk about my husband like that. Like, I don't care that he's your dad; he's also my husband. You're not going to talk about my husband like that. Yeah. And I remember my parents saying those same things to me as a kid. I just think it's so important.
Yeah. And what you probably don't realize in the moment is that all these data points is you're teaching your kids something.
Yes.
And all that's going to happen, because data shows this, right? What do most humans do? I don't forget what the stat is, but it's something to 92%.
Over 90%.
Over 90% of humans will just repeat behaviors from what they saw, right? It's very rare for somebody to do what they've been not.
The opposite.
It's very rare to have somebody do the opposite of what they've been shown. It happens, but it's rare. And so I think we're very aware that every interaction that Hailey and I have, every conversation that we have, every disciplinary, way we handle discipline and the way we handle, hey, what happens if a kid wants this meal or that meal? We know that they're eventually going to bring that into their own marriage.
I'm sorry, somebody asked a question that I want to get to.
Yeah.
Shelly says, do you feel that should be the standard even with blended families? Yes.
Yeah.
Because your marriage is still sacred. You're still setting an example for your children. 100% I do. And this is just like, obviously I'm a grown adult now, so it's a little bit different, but my dad passed away and my mom may never remarry. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But if my mom ever did choose to remarry, I just had this conversation with some friends the other day. That's why I'm bringing this up. But if my mom ever did choose to remarry, I now know her husband comes before me because that is a husband. It's not a child. That's a sacred relationship. So yes, I do think it should. Mm-hmm. I think it can be tricky, and I think it needs to be done.
It adds an element of...
It definitely adds an element of difficulty, but it should be done. Yes, I do think so.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think the really important part for this part of the conversation is just to acknowledge that familiar doesn't always mean safe. It doesn't mean healthy. It doesn't mean biblical. just because something was quote unquote normal in your life growing up doesn't mean it's what you want to continue. So just to be aware and intentional moving forward with what you're bringing, right? Mm-hmm. And not just repeating what was shown to you because it's what was quote unquote normal, but making conscious decisions about what you want to take, what you want to replace, what you want to, something maybe just need to be redeemed, right?
Yeah. And a huge takeaway and something that it was just a profound teaching in my life. And because, you wonder sometimes, you're like, why do people stay and keep repeating miserable habits, right? Why do they keep on fighting, even though they don't want to keep fighting? Why do they keep repeating the same behaviors as their parents, even though they don't want to keep repeating them? And, doing so much research on this, it comes down to the one word you just said, because it's familiar. And so people will stay in a pattern of familiar, even if it's horrible for them, only because they know what to expect tomorrow. And when you give a human some uncertainty in life, when they're like, well, I'd rather have the fights than not know what life without fights is going to look like, because it creates uncertainty. You just don't know what tomorrow looks like. And because of that, you repeat these cycles. And when I learned that, now it's a psychology principle, but it's very, very true and it's very real. When I learned that, I'm like, whoa, what are the familiar things in my life that I'm repeating only because they're familiar, not because they're good for me? Mm-hmm. And that is like a game changer question. And so anyways, I thought that was important because that was a profound concept.
Yeah. Well, and then you can start to get into like attachment styles, right? Which that's a really interesting conversation. But, if you look at your parents and you're like, okay, they were constantly fighting.
Yeah.
But then you realize like, okay, but their attachment style that they both had was they required this kind of chaos to fix so that they could feel close to each other. They didn't know how to feel close to each other without it.
Super unhealthy, but that goes on so often.
But it happens all the time.
Because you're fulfilling a need. You're getting a need from it.
Right. So then you need to move forward. Okay, well, I'm going to not choose to repeat that, right?
100%.
I just think it's important to be aware.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the second half, which is far more exciting. Far more fun. And that is...
Let me get my glasses.
That is, what legacy are you going to leave? Or what legacy is your marriage leaving for your children? Okay, and now here, for me, that's like a really exciting conversation. Right? For some people, they might hear that and that might be terrifying.
Yeah, but you can change it.
But you can change it.
That's right.
So like, that's the first question you have to ask yourself is, okay, if my children went on to have a marriage that looked exactly like mine, am I going to lose sleep at night worried about my kids? Am I going to feel proud of that? Mm-hmm. That's a really, really important question.
Yeah.
And if it's anything other than you're proud of it, you need to fix that because they are going to continue on in a lot of these things. And one day your daughter is going to sit there with her new husband and she's going to explain to them the merits that she saw and why she is the way she is. And how are you going to feel about that being the other side of that story?
Yes.
Yeah,
100%. I think of it in two different terminologies. I think of short-term thinkers and long-term thinkers. When you think in shorter time horizons, when you're just thinking about today, tomorrow, you're survival, you're normally going to prioritize getting back at somebody because you're like, I want to win today, right? But the long-term thinkers, what are they asking? I want to win tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's
50 years.
And tomorrow you can extend out. The longer you can extend out tomorrow, it's like, dude, I'm not going to get into it right now because I know the long-term thinkers thinking this whole thing right here is just nonsensical, right? What I'm playing for is the 50-year horizon when my kid gets married, when he has his kids, when he has his grandkids, and that's the game I'm playing. Mm-hmm. And so it's like two different players, right? You got the guy playing checkers where all he can think of is his next move. And you got the guy playing chess. And he's like, dude, I'm 10 steps ahead of you right now. Like, I'm not even thinking about this. I'm thinking about that point. And what actions do I need to take to make sure that end point is more real than not?
Can I give the example of last night?
Yeah.
Can I?
Okay, wait, what's last night? What was last night?
Well, okay, so we got in bed last night, right?
Yeah.
And I was tired. I was just kind of in a bad mood. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
you were kind of
I was just kind of in a bad mood. Yeah. And let the world know I'm a cuddler, right? I love to cuddle. And so I finished reading and I went and I laid on Richard's chest and I was laying on him. And he very slyly, okay, so Richard's not a cuddler. He doesn't like to cuddle when he sleeps. And I know this.
Not while I
sometimes
sleep.
He lets me.
Not while I sleep.
And the last night you you kissed me, which was like sweet, but it was like I'm going to distract her so she doesn't realize.
You took it that way. You took it that way.
Okay, but this is my perfect example. It's like, I got offended. And I was like, okay, if you wanted me to get off, like you could have just said, get off, you know? And I mean, like literally roll off of you.
Yeah.
And I like rolled over to the other side of the bed and fell asleep, which you could have engaged. And that could have turned into an argument, right? Because I was in a bad mood. I was just rearing to go.
Oh, yeah. And I read you like a book. I'm like, nope, go to bed.
You pulled back and you were like, and okay. That is not what I was trying to do, but okay. But that's a perfect example of when you were like, I'm going to look long-term here. I could engage right now and like we could fight about this and still be mad in the morning and make for a really awkward podcast. We have to go talk about marriage tomorrow. Or
that's right.
I'm just going to let this one go because clearly this is just a mood and I'm going to leave it alone.
Yeah, hon, dude, dead on.
Is it ever too late to change that? Oh, no, I'm going to say no. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I don't think it's ever too late to change anything. So.
Wait, change what?
I don't know. She didn't say it. Just said that.
Oh, well, give more context. Give more context.
Give us more context for that one. I saw it too late.
But nothing's ever too late. Like that's the reality. I mean, besides death and whatever else, but it's not too late.
Yes. So I thought that was a good example of the keeping the long term in mind and not engaging in the short term.
By the way, on that question, is it ever too late? Like some people, what we've discussed before is that every home has a culture, right? And what is culture? So we define culture in a home as what gets rewarded and what gets punished. So what did you say?
Change the legacy you leave your children.
Oh, yeah. So it's kind of on this principle here. So like every home has a culture, and culture is defined by what gets rewarded in the home and what gets punished in the home. So for example, if the husband rolls over and he tries to kiss you and you're just not in the mood and you're like, can you just not do that? You are creating a culture in your home. Your husband has said, I get not rewarded if I roll over and I kiss my wife at the wrong time, right? So then the next time he's much less likely to do it because he's been rewarded not to do it, right? And so if you want to now change the culture in your home, what you have to do is you just have to reset what gets rewarded and what gets punished. And as soon as you do that, you reset the culture. So the next time your husband does something that you normally would have done X, if you do Y and you reward him in a different way, and if he feels like safe to do it again, he will keep repeating those behaviors, right? Like that's how cultures and dynamics get set.
Well, and I think that's a good opportunity to also keep the long-term goal in mind, right? Because this is a question I get in my DMs that always makes me laugh a little because men do this thing. I don't know if every man does it, but a lot of men in my DMs, and I know my husband does it, where like, they'll just like come up behind you and grab your boobs, right? And you're like, as a woman, I get it. It's annoying. And like, especially if you're like cooking dinner or something, and you're like, dude, I get it. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But as a woman, you also want your husband to be flirty with you and engage with you and be attracted to you. That's right. Like you want him to want you. So if you're constantly shutting that down, like, oh, don't touch me like that. Get off. You're
setting a culture.
You're setting a culture that like, hey, if I touch at the wrong time, I might get bit. So you know what I mean?
That's right.
So you have to keep that in mind as a wife of like, okay, I want him to want me. So I'm just going to take this, even though it's annoying me a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to take a breath.
Yeah.
And I want to set the culture that like, I want him to want me. So I'm going to leave it alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I tell women in my DMs all the time.
Yeah, you're playing the long game. You're playing the long game.
Because I think a lot of men also do that because it's like a fun, less vulnerable way to like be vulnerable, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, I'm going to throw out this little line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
it's definitely a temperature gauge.
And being vulnerable for men is hard. So if you just like slap that down, they aren't taking that other step. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially because in most marriages, the culture is the husband initiates and the wife is being pursued. And if you want the husband to keep initiating, when he initiates and he gets shut down, again, keep in mind, the initiation part is very scary. It's vulnerable, right? So it's like, you got to be careful there.
Yeah. And so I'm going to share our rule just because I think it's really helpful, even though it's not what the podcast is about. But our rule that we set is if I'm like just not in the mood and it is not happening tonight, I will let Richard know before we get in bed. And that way he knows like, okay, his feelings aren't hurt. It's not in the moment. He knows. Yeah. If I don't say those words before we get into bed and Richard tries to initiate something, even if I don't feel like it, I have to suck it up and which I try to.
It's good terminology. Just suck it up.
Just suck it up. Sometimes, you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna say it. You can't. But
yeah.
So that's our rule. If I don't say it beforehand, that's on me and it's going down. And if I do say it beforehand, then like, okay, you respect that.
Yeah.
But so that's our rule. That's what works for us to keep initiation a little bit less intimidating.
Keep it rolling.
Yeah. Okay. So this says kids copy your daily treatment, conflict, respect and roles, consistency, and your faithfulness. So the way you treat each other on a daily basis. How do you greet your husband when he walks in the door? How do you say goodbye when he leaves? How do you handle it when he spills something on your newly mopped floor? Which I could work on that one. Conflict. That's a huge one that kids learn from their parents, right?
Mm-hmm. Everything's a lesson.
Everything is. And like, that's a really big one. Cause then when they go, okay, so we have friends who are married where the husband and wife, they got married. And the first like couple of fights they had, the wife just went off. And the husband was like, what are you doing? Like, you sound like a crazy person. And he was like completely baffled because his parents didn't argue like that, but hers did.
Oh, interesting.
And so they had to figure out as they went on in their marriage, like she had to realize, oh, that's not just how fighting works. Like, we're not just going to yell at each other and throw things.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And she had to learn like, okay, I can actually behave differently in this. But when your kids get married one day and they're like, you don't want your children to be the screaming idiot that's like, oh, well, that's just what my mom and dad did.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Yeah.
Have some composure. Teach your children to they can still communicate respectfully even when they disagree.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's super important.
Very important. Something that Hailey and I have adopted in our whole marriage is that we hold our beliefs loosely. Now, there aside from the ones that are we're like we planted in the ground, right? Jesus is the only way, Savior, like that is not changing, right? There's our values are not going to change, right? Kindness, compassion, all these things. However, when there's other beliefs that, we feel strongly towards this direction. However, we're not under the assumption that it's the only way. Like if somebody brings a better way, we're very susceptible and we will say, you know what, that actually makes sense. And I will do that, but I'll do that differently.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
It's like when we got married, we both went to traditional school.
Yeah.
We never gave any thought to anything but traditional school.
Yeah.
Never talked about anything other than traditional school. And then once we had kids and they were getting a little bit older and I turned to you and I said, babe, I think I want to homeschool.
Yeah.
You were like,
I was like, that makes way more sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So like, that's a good example of like, okay.
Yeah. So you'd be probably very surprised in our marriage, like how many things we change our mind on. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, this makes actually more sense. Like let's do that.
Yeah. Well, I think you did a carousel. Was it yesterday? If you had to know, Richard's the carousel master. He makes all their carousels on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was yesterday. It was talking about, oh my gosh, what was it talking about?
What was it? So yesterday's? Anger. No, anger, not, parents.
Oh my gosh. It was in my head. I completely just disappeared.
On my phone. But it was the Bible describe a fool in detail.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Keep going. It was that carousel.
Yeah. Your spouse recognized you on every line.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What about it?
Keep going. There was something.
You're not going to like what comes next because the Bible doesn't describe a fool vaguely. Behaviors, patterns, details, proverbs, so it seems right in their own eyes. Everything seems right.
It was like, okay, when you're in an argument and you're not listening to the other person, you're just waiting for your opportunity to talk.
Chance to speak. Yep.
I think you have to be really careful not to do that, right? Yep. When you're in an argument or in a discussion or in a disagreement with your spouse, your goal should be to understand.
Understand. That's it. 100%.
Not to convince, not to make them say that you're right.
Yep.
Right? It's just to understand.
Yep.
And if you can come to your spouse with the genuine belief that they're good,
yep.
Right? They want good for our family. They want good for me. They want good for the world. They just came to their conclusion differently. Your goal is to try to understand, how did you get to that conclusion?
Yeah.
Because it's different than one that I got
100%.
To. You know what I mean? And I think that can save a lot of arguments.
Oh, no doubt about it.
And so what is the phrase I always use? Approach your spouse with curiosity. I think that can solve so many problems.
Yep. If you look, this is the reality. is that if you lived that person's life and had that person's experiences and thought those person's thoughts, you would be saying the same things as them. So when you think about it from that standpoint, to your point, that's the only thing that matters. All you're trying to do is just understand how they came to their conclusion. Because once you understand how they came to the conclusion, it's not about being wrong or right. It's about, oh, that's how you came to your conclusion. You're not saying you're right. You're just saying, I understand why you're saying what you're saying.
Perfect example is like in a lot of political things, right? Like, which we're not going to get into political things, but we have these two sides of the aisle that are always just screaming at each other about why they're wrong. And it's like, I don't need to change my opinion. My opinion on certain policies is maybe not going to change, but I can also come with some compassion and understand. But I see where you got to your conclusion. I see why your life has brought you to that. 100%. And so I don't need to hate you and demonize you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
Yep. I fully get it. It's like, I get it. If I were in your shoes,
agree, but I get it.
if I were you and I thought those thoughts and I had those things, I would probably think that too. So I get it, you know?
Yeah. So that can happen like even in churches a lot, right? Where the pastor will say something that you're just like, people get so upset. Oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that. It's like, well, A, he's a human being. He's not God, right? So he's not infallible. He can be wrong. 100%. And he has his own interpretations from his own life. But just having the belief that, okay, but they are good. They do love the Lord. They do want to see good. They just came to a different conclusion.
Different conclusion.
And your spouse does too.
Amen, sister.
Give me an example of something that we have come to different conclusions, and odd that we just respect the conclusion is different.
Besides
predestination and free will. Besides that one, we do disagree on that one.
What is something that we have chosen to disagree on? Geez. Wow, that's a good question.
Well, here's an example. I choose not to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't want it.
And
that's just my personal choice. You don't get drunk, but you'll have a beer or a glass of whiskey or whatever.
Yep.
So that's something that I don't even say we necessarily disagree on, because it's not like something we ever fight about, but it's something we just have come to different conclusions, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally okay.
Different conclusion. I mean, here's the reality too, is that I know that alcohol is not good for me. And I know that it has no benefit to my life other than I like it, I enjoy it, and it's something that I enjoyed. But besides that, like, everything's bad about it. But I still choose to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But I think, people will take that angle. It's like, okay, but we all, so like, it bothers me if people are not intellectually consistent, right?
Yeah.
It's like we all engage in things that we know are not good for us, that we enjoy, right? When's the last time you drove through McDonald's, lady? You know what I mean? Like, there are things that we do that we understand are not the best for us, but we enjoy, and we decide to take the risk anyway.
That's right.
You come to that conclusion in alcohol, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's good for me, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so we're going to just do some quick rapid fire questions, last couple minutes, and then wrap this thing up.
Okay, wrap it up.
Okay.
Let's do it.
What do you want to bring to our family from your family? We kind of talked about that a little bit. Just give me a quick one.
What do I want to bring from my family?
From your family to our.
I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, the talking thing was one.
Actually, let's do this.
There's a lot of love.
Let's do it different.
Yeah.
What do you want to bring to our family from my family? And I'll do for your family, because we already talked about our own family.
One thing that really stood out about your family is the generosity. I love the generosity in your family. I saw it a lot. I mean, we would go out to dinner. Your parents would pay for random people at the restaurant. Your dad or your mom would just pull out money and just cheer up a kid's day, because
That's my dad.
Yeah, your dad loved doing that. He would go and buy things for different organizations, sponsor thing. I mean, he just a very gracious heart.
One of the most generous people I've ever met.
One of the most generous people I've ever met. And I got to see that. And that was one thing I really want to bring, for sure. That was a great piece.
He would be so honored with that.
Yeah, that was a great piece.
So the one thing I want to bring to your family, they just get together a lot. They love to spend a lot of time together. When we first started dating, I was like, whoa. Like, this 3-hour dinner and I am exhausted. And now I love it. Like, we have your family coming over for Good Friday tomorrow. I really enjoy spending time as a family.
Yeah. And now with the cousins and the kids and stuff.
And I remember, like, when we were dating, I thought it was really weird. Honestly, I just thought it was really weird. And now I love it. Now I'm weird too. And that's okay.
either get weird or,
Okay. What is something from your family that stops with you that you're not going to continue?
That stops with me. Here's something that I didn't bring up earlier that I do think has not taken hold in our marriage. I think in some regards, my parents might have prioritized the kids over their marriage. And I get it because there's circumstances, right? Like just how we were talking about. There's certain circumstances and things in that marriage that led to those conclusions, right? So I'm sympathetic to that. However, I think that is one area that I don't bring to our marriage. And I don't know if I want anything else that I should say on that. Yeah.
So it stops with me. I think this is more so just circumstantial and not necessarily a choice my parents made. But my parents didn't really have family growing up. And so aside from my grandma and papa, like we talked about earlier, they didn't have siblings or cousins or anything. So it was friends. My parents just had friends.
Yeah.
And friends are great, but I really adopted that I'd rather be with family and
go that route. Yeah.
So
yeah, we don't have tons of friends. That's for sure. We do have friends.
We know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I like a lot of people.
We're reclusive. Whatever you say, recluse.
Yeah. Okay. What is something that you are consciously modeling right now for our kids through our marriage? What is something you're conscious of?
I mean, the first thought that I had was just health and fitness. I'm very conscious of that. Like I want to model, hey guys, like you take care of your body, you take care of your appearance, not necessarily from a vanity perspective, but like you take care of yourself, right? In a health and fitness perspective, you work out, you don't let yourself kind of let things just go and just let your what's it called? Like your desires, impulses just control your life. You don't just go and like eat 3 cakes and just eat tons of sugar and throw up and like, dude, have control in this area. And that's something that I'm very conscious about modeling for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have 2 things. I think one of them is modeling what it really looks like in a real life to really love the Lord and like how you can serve the Lord in a daily life. You don't have to be a missionary in Africa to serve the Lord.
You just had to one up me, huh? You had to do the best one. You just took the thunder right from me.
Do you remember that game Apples to Apples? It was like if you pulled Jesus or Helen Keller, like you had to win because you can't choose. You had to.
I picked Jesus.
You were just okay, fine. I pulled the Jesus card. But I think that's true. That's something I'm conscious of. And also, I really want my children to know how much I love their dad. Like I want them to just feel it in their bones because I want my sons and I want them to expect to be loved that way. And I want them to love their spouses that way.
You do a good job at that.
Thank you.
No doubt about it.
What do you want our kids' marriages to look like?
Man. Again, I don't want to come up. What's the word? Weird. Maybe. But I mean, look, we have a great marriage. And I think if the kids can experience something that we have, I think that as of right now, I would say I would be proud of that. I would be proud of that. And I think that is the ultimate gift. Gift that I could give myself is being proud of the fact that, hey, if my kids replicated what I'm doing, I would be proud. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I can say that. I feel like I can wholeheartedly say that. And what was the question?
What do you want our children's marriages to look like?
And so right now I would say I want it to look like ours.
Yeah. Yeah. I want them to have fun. I want them to love each other. I want them to be committed. I want them to love the Lord. And serve the Lord through their marriage. I want them to be generous. I want them to be gracious. I don't know. I want a lot of things for my children's marriage, and that's one thing I want to really encourage people listening is like, it's never too early to start praying for your children, for their future spouse, for their marriage.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know I had a lot of prayer over me from my parents. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and even like when I pray with the boys before bed, like I'll verbally out loud pray for their future wife. Like I want them to know that I'm praying that over them. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important. Okay, last one. Pick one thing that you want to model for our children this week? In the coming week, what's something you want to focus on?
The coming week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the spirit of Easter, I think modeling the source of where to run to. I think about that often too. I think we try to do it where we try to have the kids run back to the source. It's like, well, son, you did this behavior. What does the Bible say though? Right? Or son, you did this thing that was not good. Well, when you look at the Bible, what are your thoughts? Right? And so this week in particular, because it's Easter, I would say that would be maybe more on my top of mind. It's like, I want the kids to know like their life should be a direct reflection of what the Bible has to say. And don't judge your actions based off of what I tell you.
Right.
Judge them based off of what the Bible says.
And you can't judge your actions based off of what culture says.
Yeah.
Or what's more comfortable or what you wish the Bible said. Right. It's like, no, the Bible is the infallible word of God. And that's what we're going to measure our life against.
It's our life playbook. So that would be the thing this week.
Yeah. That's good. I was just thinking, because this is something that I genuinely struggle with, so it's something I'm going to make an effort for this week and hopefully model for our children, is just to be gracious with particularly messes. I don't know why that's hard.
With messes, I know.
Yes, but that's the one thing I'm going to
because you deal with so many messes. It's like messes all over the place. Yeah.
But that's what I'm going to try to focus on this week. I could do better there.
That's cool. I like it, babe. Yes. Very good.
Well, cool. Do you want to wrap us up with all the fun podcasty things?
Well, we'll wrap it up with the fun podcasty things. Guys, one of the most gracious things you could do for us is just share the podcast with somebody that would find value from this.
Sorry,
yeah. And again, like, look, we don't run ads. We're not like spending on traffic. Like the only way this thing grows is because somebody tells somebody else about it or they find us like on social media. Mm-hmm. So that's that's the number one way you can help us is share it with somebody, that would find benefit from it.
Yeah.
So do that. Yep. Subscribe if you haven't on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast. That'd be fantastic. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Good. Do you want to tell them about the prayer challenge or spark check-in or not today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, down below, guys, we have resources for marriages. I mean, no matter where you're at, whether you're a thriving marriage, you can always be thriving more. Whether maybe your marriage right now is not in the circumstance that you want it to be in, which we have resources for that as well. So down below, whether you're on Instagram or YouTube or Spotify, links in the description, we have resources for you to help that marriage grow and get better. Yep. Yeah.
And throughout the week, if you guys ever want to reach out to us, the best way to reach out is via DM on Instagram. That's where Rich and I are the most active. That's what we'll see. And so we'd love to hang out there.